ค Okay, we'll reconvene. Thank you very much. So we'll now move on to item 25, restoring homeownership for San Diegans. And I'm giving this the floor over to my colleague Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. Just on this housing item, and this is basically that I've been bringing forward, is about the dream of home ownership slipping away here in San Diego County. I just got a feed here from, I guess, the Senate just passed a bipartisan bill to try to restrict the number of single-family homes an entity or an investor could own. And it says that this bill would prevent any investor who owns 350 homes or 350 homes from buying any more. So I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's like, okay, you can have 349, but not 350. It's just, anyway. Okay, so we're in San Diego County, we're facing an affordability crisis. The dream of home ownership just keeps slipping further away for young families, young people. Home ownership's long been a cornerstone of the economic stability for anyone and families. Only 13% of San Diego households can afford to purchase a median-priced home. So this board letter seeks to explore the feasibility of establishing a county-funded first-time home buyer program to help make that dream come true for more hardworking families. The county, we currently administer two first-time home buyer programs. The first is a down payment and closing cost assistance program and a down payment assistance program. Both are funded by the state and federal government. So these are two great programs, and I want to be clear, this is not to duplicate these programs, but rather complement the programs. One of the options I'd like to see in the report back is a possibility of a program that allows for potential interest rate buy-down options so that we can increase the utilization of existing programs. Because the programs give money for help on down payments and things like that, but if you're paying $1 million for a home, your mortgage can be from $5,000 to $6,000 a month. So I'm looking for hopefully interest rate buy-down programs. So the county-funded program could essentially layer on top of these existing programs to increase the utilization. Last fiscal year, of the two programs combined, there were only 26 households were able to use and utilize existing programs. And that's actually up. In previous years, it was in the single digits, the number of households we were able to help out. However, so at the very least, we should ensure that we utilize the entire budget for the existing first-time home buyer programs, because we're not using that entire budget. Rather than leaving money on the table, the dream of home ownership continues to slip away for the vast majority of our constituents. If we want our children and grandchildren to stay in San Diego County, if we want to keep teachers here, firefighters here, small business owners here, college graduates here, we need to expand the access to housing for first-time buyers. This is not a cure-all, just another step, a small step in the right direction to help more hardworking families. And again, this is to ask county staff to come back with a feasibility study for implementing a program like this. I'd like to make a motion to approve this item, and also I'd be happy to any friendly amendments that could help first-time home buyers here in San Diego County. So with that, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We do have 8 total requests to speak on this item, 2 individuals in person, 6 requesting to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we did receive 3 e-comments on this item. 1 was in favor and 2 were neutral. For any individuals that have requested to speak on this item by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with our in-person speakers, and I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra and Catherine Rhodes to the podium. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. If you could please begin by stating your name for the audio record.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and for Jim Desmond, thank you very much for bringing this forward. You know, you're going to be, I believe you're running for Congress, and I have a way for you to get a lot of attention. What it is the redevelopment agency. The redevelopment agency deleted 10,000 affordable units, mostly single-family room occupancy units, from downtown San Diego, and we never got the money back for that. Remember when they did the redevelopment cap, when they raised it so they could make the Charter Stadium, back with Mayor Sanders back in the day? The cap was raised on the redevelopment agency, and we could put that debt back in. I've been coming for, since 2012, so what, 14 years I've been coming here and saying, let's put those 10,000 units on on the recognized obligation payment schedule through the County of San Diego's Oversight Board. You have an oversight board. Between the county and the city, you have 4 of the 7 votes on it. You could put $1 billion worth of debt onto, if you wanted to, but of course the money could only be spent within the city of San Diego. But you could actually go around and say, we're going to solve the problem. We're going to take care of all the homeless. We're going to give the money back to the people that it belongs to, because this money was stolen. You're not allowed to delete an affordable housing unit unless you have a replacement unit. But San Diego just deleted them without replacing them. And so this is a way you could get some attention federally all over the place. And what it is when I talk to HUD, because I talk to HUD all the time, I used to talk to HUD all the time, they said, yeah, all you have to do is put it on your routes and you could do it. And I've been coming here, but nobody understands. So please do a friendly amendment to add for staff to look into my issue of the possibility of doing this. Thank you.
Oh, man, Jim, if you weren't so dismissive to your own constituents, geez, it's like you can't even just have a conversation. It's so interesting. 26 households. Oh, wow, that is not a lot of people. And it's sad because it's like we want to get people into home ownership when people can't even afford to pay rent and put food on the table and get the basic necessities just to live life, as we were talking about going against corporations yesterday, when you're the corporation that needs to be sought after because you're the ones that are increasing the cost of living on an exponentially crazy basis. But of course, I mean, if somebody owns 350 homes, yeah, that's not great. But it's the problem is that even if you give them a down payment and this and that, they still have to pay for insurance and all of these things that are crazy amounts of money. And in the end, if they can't pay for that and you do put them into a home, you guys can confiscate that home if they are unable to pay for it. So is there going to be some kind of stipulation in here that says if by chance you have some kind of problem and there's a default and they want to come and take your home, what are you going to do then? Is there going to be another program that's going to be there to help like you guys always want to do? I mean, because if somebody doesn't pay, like, even if it's a couple $100s in taxes, you will take that home and sell it for a couple $100. Right? Instead of going like, what can we do to make sure these people stay in their home? Nothing, because you're going to profit off of it. And then even just to get in the mix of like buying those homes, you have to pay $1,000 just to be in there. So you guys get a pocket money. It's frustrating when you guys sit here and act like you're helping people when the writing on the wall is so clear. When you guys come in and you take those things and you continually increase people's, cost of living and then act like it's other corporations that are doing it. Just hoping that the civil, liability, whatever thing that Damon's going to be running is going to go after the county as well, but probably not because you're complicit.
All right, we will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
But it is an incredible life-changing I might say. So thank you.
Terry, it is your turn to speak.
The parallels with you and young Martine are serious, I know.
Okay, we'll
So I'm so excited to be able to call this time.
go to our next speaker.
Paul Bold. The county already administers two first-time home buyer programs, as Jim pointed out. In FY 24-25, the two programs assisted 26 households obtain first home ownership. Well, we should really look into how these can be fixed up and improved. What would really work is building less expensive houses, which are also quicker to build, like 3D printed, so-called tiny homes. skipping crate homes, maybe building less expensive adobe homes, as we keep telling you. These would not only be cheaper, but they'd also keep up the market for new homes better instead of houses that might not be built for years, and then it would be less likely to end up with an oversupply of homes. And there needs to be more than 5 or 10% of truly low-income housing, which is like 30% of AMI per HUD. This is what needs to be guaranteed, not below 50% or up, or the developer can essentially pick and choose whom to let in. Ask yourselves, do you really want to solve the housing crisis, or just keep doing long-term expensive things the big developers want? It's do you want a lot of homeless people to keep being homeless, low-income people not to be able to afford houses? I mean, it's really ridiculous what you're trying to do. I mean, you need to nail down, really do some.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Gambler here. The reason why why no one can own a house, no one can repair houses, why apartment buildings don't get repaired, is simple. Proposition 13. Proposition 13 basically prevents people from updating their house. It prevents them to do any improvements because suddenly they have to pay more taxes. And I don't understand why you guys don't recognize that and look for other revenue streams. Like, for example, our landfill that is going to be overflowing within 5 years. You could go ahead and drastically reduce it by recycling plastic and generating funds from it. You could reduce the amount of fines that ends up taking place. You get what I'm saying? You could go ahead and reduce all that. But you don't, because you're more interested in the money you're going to make. I mean, not the money that the corporations are going to make. You want to go ahead and save your security, so you're going to let bad people go ahead and take advantage. What I don't understand is why you don't look at the base problem and try to solve it. Why take a look at that instead of stacking one Band-Aid over another Band-Aid, over another Band-Aid, over another Band-Aid, until finally anyone with money friggin' leaves and you are just stuck with dependents. All depending on the government to save their ass because you do not want to give anything back to the people. You need to take everything from them and not actually fix the roads. Build housing projects in areas that have trucks that will tear up the roads. So how often are you going to have to repair the roads? But you don't have the money for it, right?
Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hey, it's true. Fun fact, it was communists who created the Monopoly game. Now they own 349 properties on the board. And what's funny is you guys giving corporate developers the green light to build their ugly, expensive stack-a-packs, which do not make for home ownership. This board wouldn't even ban non-citizens from buying our properties. This is a well-intentioned item that is just wrong. Limited housing inventory is not why homes are overpriced in San Diego County. There are homes that have been sitting on the market empty for 6 months simply because people won't or can't rent or buy them, especially not those ugly stack-a-packs at luxury prices to live in a stupid box with no backyard. This board's vision is not the American dream, hence why people leave the county and state. Keep your million-dollar fixer-uppers. They're overpriced slums. The rest of the country has no housing crisis or affordability crisis, despite taking in record amounts of Californians. That means you're doing something wrong. The state's expecting people to take on a loan for a down payment that won't even cover half of the real down payment. Six. Who even wants 2 loans just to buy $1 million fixer-upper? See, this is what happens when you have 5 property owning, out of touch career politicians, part of the privileged property owning class, making decisions they never feel for themselves. Too bad those Dr. Thrones rely on property and sales taxes, which is why this board pushes those luxury stacking taxes. But why don't you guys just give out free mansions or airplane tickets to county residents like you did for the illegal aliens? Prove you really care about San Diego residents. Help them escape. To summarize, this is a sound good, feel good item that will achieve pretty much nothing for the average person. Pass it and nothing's going to change. Until every board and state policy is changed regarding CEQA, insurance, VMT, gas, and everything else that's causing an affordability crisis in California, people are going to keep moving out. Sell all county properties and get out of the real estate market. Otherwise, there is no future in California. It's going to be more
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Swallow. Bingo. Yes. Amen to all the speakers. And yep, dependency is the name of the game, as mentioned before. And, that's all it's about. But home buyers program is the right name. You can't have it be homeowners program because there's no such thing of owning anything within this system. Ownership, that too, is an illusion. But so how about Jimmy boy, how about working to abolish property taxes forever? And if this is the reality, if you work hard to own a house, then it should be yours, right? The fact that you can buy land, build a home, pay off your mortgage, yet still lose your home should be illegal. But it's not, because this is the system, and it's designed this way, entirely, perfectly, seamlessly, did I say perfectly? Flawed. Yep, not for our advantage, not for the people to strive, but for the people to further struggle and barely survive. What other words of wisdom do I have? Let's see. Let me read you a little something. Reminder, the whole system is designed to disconnect you from your intuition. Why? Disconnected people are easy to what? Control and manipulate and keep on the hamster wheel to Nowheresville. Okay, that's all I got. I'm done. I'm so bored, dude.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. We'll go to our next caller. Okay, Terry, we're trying you again. Can you hear us? Terry, last call. All right, that caller is non-responsive. And Chair Lawson-Remer, not seeing any more movement. That concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a couple comments on this. I know my colleagues in the queue. So, okay, thank you very much, Vice Chair. I appreciate that. I think I first just want to start by thanking Supervisor Anderson for bringing this, Supervisor Desmond for bringing this item. Sorry, Supervisor Desmond. I think we have been talking for many years, and certainly been a central focus of mine, that housing affordability is a key challenge facing San Diegans, and it's a defining economic anxiety for San Diego families right now, and it has been for quite a number of years. I certainly think that some of the ideas in this board letter, including the interest rate buy-down, are promising, and a feasibility study around them is an excellent idea. But we also need to be honest about some of the cost drivers, because they are multiple, and there's many factors that do drive costs. But some of them are hard to control, and some of them are much more directly within the policy purview and respond pretty directly to policy interventions. So I kind of want to really focus specifically on those. So first of all, tariffs. A December study by the Center for American Progress found that Trump's tariff policies are on track to result in 450,000 fewer homes being built through 2030 and raising the cost per home on average by $17,500. To corroborate this analysis, the National Association of Home Buyers has reported that materials have increased by 8.5 to 9.6% just in March alone. So that's tariffs. Clearly, one of those policy issues that are directly within the locus of control of decision makers and can be really done differently. Another issue that's really central at the current moment, and I think centered for everyone I'm talking to, are the geopolitical conflicts that are driving up the cost of oil. You know, we know without a doubt that the U.S. actions in Iran and Venezuela have been creating an energy crisis, frankly unparalleled in my lifetime. It's very scary. We're looking at fuel prices at the pump, higher energy costs, but that is just the most immediate impact on consumers. It also impacts home building and home building costs. According to the Association of General Contractors, the disruption of oil, natural gas, and aluminum supplies is pushing up costs and causing construction delays. And these conflicts are clearly creating severe inflationary pressures that have stalled the Fed's planned rate cuts. So going back to the point that Supervisor Desmond made about, you know, the fact that some of these high interest rates do make buying a house unaffordable because the monthly payments are so high. What drives those rates is the Fed rate. And what drives the Fed rate is the Fed's mandate, dual mandate, to rein in inflation and maximize jobs. That's a dual mandate, but in reality, when inflationary pressures are significant and threatening to spiral, the Fed has to prioritize making sure that we don't end up in an inflationary spiral as happened in the 70s. Which means when we have rising fuel prices because we are in a war in Iran, that the rates stay high. So I understand that it might not be immediately obvious to most people who are going to buy a house who are looking at a 6.5%, 7% interest rate, that it's in large part because we're bombing Iran, that inflationary pressures remain high, which means that rates stay high. So I acknowledge that that is not immediately apparent, but that is what's really going on, kind of once you unpeel at least one layer of the onion. So these cost drivers, while they seem theoretical, are not abstract. They show up in cost per square foot and affordability. A 25 basis point rise in the mortgage rate prices out approximately 1.13 million households nationally. And if we're looking as a county to encourage a home ownership, it would be a lot easier and a lot better if interest rates were just lower instead of us looking to use GPR to pay for a buy down on that interest rate, which is being driven up because we are engaged in a war in Iran. And every $1,000 increase in the median price of a new home prices out an additional 100,015 households. So if we are serious about home ownership, we have to be willing to say what's making it so much harder. And today, we can go on record doing just that. So I certainly do support this proposal. I think it is the right thing to do to be supporting and promoting home ownership. But I think that at the end of the day, we want to be getting to root causes, and we don't want to be using our very scarce county GPR, that's taxpayer money, to essentially fund interest rate spreads that are being driven by a war in Venezuela, a war in Iran, and a global energy crisis. So with that in mind, I would like to propose a friendly amendment, if we could put that up on the board. Okay, thank you so much. So add recommendation 2 to the board letter as follows. direct the chief administrative officer to include in the county's legislative program opposition to federal policies that increase the cost of housing construction in San Diego County, including federal tariffs on construction materials, as well as opposition to U.S. military or economic actions that disrupt energy markets and construction material supply chains, such as U.S. actions targeting Iran and Venezuela. So would like to make that as a friendly amendment to the item. And if my colleagues are willing to accept that amendment, I'd be happy to second the item.
No, you're really politicizing this thing. What I was trying to do is we've got a couple of programs here at the county that are underperforming. And I wanted to see if we could get a little more, widen the net, cast a wider net to let people, more people take use of these programs or more people be able to qualify for these programs. This is a political agenda that you're putting forward. Housing costs here, were even like in 2016, there was a study done that 45% of the housing costs here in San Diego County was due to government. And so instead of trying to put this in here, just trying to cast a wider net so more people can use these programs and blaming the tariffs, blaming Iran and Venezuela. We've had this housing issue for years, not just recently due to the Trump administration. I mean, even during the Biden administration, these things were very, housing was going up and up and up. I think if this is the reason why we can't get people into housing, because of political agendas, instead of what can we do locally to fix it? We got a program, let's see if we can make it better. That's all I'm asking for. This I don't accept as a second for the recommendation. This is a political agenda instead of trying to fix a problem, doing what we can with what we have locally.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Montgomery-Stepp.
Thank you. I want to thank Supervisor Desmond for bringing this item forward. This is something that has always been a part of my agenda, first-time homebuyer programs. So I just had, and I don't know if, I see Dr. Hernandez, which HHSA is wait, somebody's coming. Where is, oh, David is there. Oh, hello, Mr. Strand. Because I just had a couple of questions about the programs that we currently have. I wanted to, because my experience has been everything that we invest, no matter where I've been serving in government, it's out the door in 3 months, by the time we re-up on these programs, because the need is so great. Is that the case here? Number one, let me just ask, is the San Diego Housing Commission administering both of our county programs, or are we doing that?
Good afternoon, through the chair. Yes, Vice Chair, the San Diego Housing Commission administers both of our programs right now, a down payment and closing cost assessment program and a down payment assistance program.
Okay, and I know Supervisor, you said we don't want to leave any money on the table. I agree. Do we leave money on the table right now, or?
One of our programs right now is completely expended, which is the down payment and closing cost. Our permanent local housing allocation funding, which is used for our higher income, we do have some money available. And as mentioned earlier, the parts that are out of the county's program control is interest rates, lack of inventory,
okay.
And things
so
that.
we did one in-house, then we would have more options to include some of those things that are in the board letter. To buy down. Yeah,
additional options, of course, would open opportunities for home buyers.
Okay. The two things that I've seen in focusing on this work over the years, one is making sure AMI is flexible with people that could otherwise qualify, right? That we, in some cases, increase that a bit. I know we have an up to 80% and then an up to 120% program now. Let me see this study, according to research in 2022 from the Urban Institute, middle income households in San Diego earning between 80 and 150% AMI have a substantially lower home ownership rate compared to those state and nationwide. So I think that would be something that would ask to be considered here. And just also when we're going through our budget process, if this needs to be a priority to have more funding for these types of down payment assistance programs, then I think that's a good time to advocate as well. But now I'm understanding the importance in having our own program, because currently, right now, do we put money from our budget into those programs?
Through the chair, right now our funding sources are the Home Investment Partnership Program, which is federal, and state money, which is a permanent local housing allocation.
Is the federal money, does that come through CDBG or no?
No, it's Home Investment Partnerships.
Okay. So we don't have an allocation through our budget process?
Correct.
Okay. And so this would open that up?
Potentially, we'll see what comes back and what the options are.
Well, your comments were very strong about advocating for homeownership for people.
Absolutely.
So I think our budget reflects those values, or should at least. Okay, all right, well, and that's what the feasibility study is for, so we can come back. Would we have information before we make budgetary decisions this year?
Not within this timeframe, Vice Chair.
Okay. All right, Supervisor, what is the time frame? I'm sorry. What did you ask for?
120 days. To come back in 120 days.
Would it be possible, and I'll ask our CAO this, because we know that you are, Joan is not here, and you're all things budget, I think you would know the answer to this question. Would we be able to, if we found this a priority, put some funding aside for it to, with the parameters of being an investment into a county-run home buyer assistance program, even if the program was not set up yet?
Through the chair, thank you for that question. We are out of time for the CAO recommended budget. We do have the change letter process, which if there was information available that was sufficient for making a decision, yes, we could look at it through the change letter process.
Okay, because if we do the 120 days.
Can we do it in 90?
Yeah, or I would be interested in whatever the timeline would be, so we could have a set aside, just because if we do 120 days and we miss at least until the first quarter or mid-year report.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm seeing David nod that a combination of things. One, if there's a desire from the board to go to 90 days, it sounds like the team would be ready to do that. And to your point, the budget is a living document. We may miss the adoption cycle or the change letter process, but there are continuous opportunities to make updates through the quarterly status adjustment or even through standalone board letter that may come forward.
Okay. All right. Those are the questions I have. Thank you.
Can I ask real quick from David? So do we get the same allocation every year for these dollars? Does it go up or escalate at all, or it's a fixed number each year, these programs, the DCCA and the DPA programs?
So starting with the home investment partnerships, it's generally about the same each year, and if there is money unspent, it would be moved forward.
Could we potentially get more money if we had matching dollars or things like that with either of these programs?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It's just based on the nature of the programs. They're not designed to be increased with match money.
Okay. Just curious.
One is federal and one is state, so they're kind of
Thank you. I appreciate the questions from my colleague. I like the 90 days. Supervisor Desmond, your motion's on the floor without a second. I'm prepared to make a motion to bring this item forward with two amendments. One is adding the recommendation 2 as outlined on the board, and secondly, as per the thoughts of the vice chair, moving the timeline from 120 to 90 days. So I'm prepared to make that motion. I think first we need to wait a little bit to see if your motion gets a second. Ryan, at what point do we decide his motion has failed for lack of a second?
Sure, if there's no second on the floor, then it fails.
Is there any second? Okay, so your motion has failed for lack of a second, so I'll make a motion to move forward with this item on restoring home ownership for San Diegans as written, but with 2 amendments, changing the 120 to 90 days and adding recommendation 2. Supervisor Aguirre.
Thank you. I'm happy to second, but I do have a clarifying question. So do we know more or less what the fiscal impact will be at the 90-day mark? I know that's a hard question because we don't know. That's precisely what we would be approving is the analysis, but ballpark?
Through the chair, Chair Pro Tem, what I can say is our expenditures for last year were $1.8 million for 18 families in our down payment and closing cost assistance. And for our down payment assistance, we spent $734,000.
But those were through federal and state funding.
So for roughly, the 26 households, $2.6, $2.7 million. We would have to research designs, programs, and I would say is there's always a ramp-up period for a program. Of course, we'd have to work with the region. Lenders would have to be made aware of it because, in essence, if something were approved, it would be the community understanding how to work with this new program. So it would be money spent over 1 to 2 to 3 years. And so as a starting point, if we're spending $2.5+ million over 26 families, we can kind of guess a number of households that might access it and then extrapolate from there.
Okay, thank you. Would the maker of the motion entertain a friendly amendment to add, because there's been some comments about this being political, but I think this is factual, the reality that we're living and some of the statements you made. I think that I would be interested in adding information on how everything we talked about earlier is impacting the housing supply, the tariffs, the energy landscape, the international conflicts. I think that, to say that that's not the case, but is one thing, and to actually have data that we can incorporate in this, bringing it back so that we can have that information on the record would be important.
So just to clarify, your kind of addition to number 2 would be would be to leave this the same, and then additionally to include in this report back analysis regarding the impact of geopolitical conflicts and tariffs on inflation, construction costs, and the local housing market.
Correct.
That's fine.
Because that'll be
include in the report
data.
back, so just
Not an opinion,
additionally,
data.
Additionally direct the CAO to include in the analysis geopolitical conflicts, the impact of geopolitical conflicts and tariffs.
And energy.
Just put I hate Trump. Why don't you just put that in there
and tariffs on.
This is the reality we're living because of his decision.
And tariffs on inflation, comma, energy costs, comma, construction costs, comma, and our local housing costs.
On the housing market, local housing market.
And our local housing market.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to conclude. Sure. Okay, Supervisor Desmond.
Yeah, I'm going to be voting against my own item here. This is why nothing gets done. This is why housing doesn't get built. This is why you try to fix something simple locally, and you got to have everything else thrown in at it after it. Every angst you've had against the administration, this all comes up, unfortunately, when you're just trying to do simple things here in our own community, and this is a poison pill, that is not necessary. We just need to get more people and young families into housing, and this kind of reaction and amendments just poisoned everything, and nothing gets done.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a motion on the floor in the second. I think all the speakers have spoken, Ryan?
Chair, yes. Supervisor, Chair Pro Tem Aguirre and Supervisor Desmond, do you have any more comments?
He's done.
Good. And then, yes, all speakers.
Okay, it's just there's still people left.
Yes, my apologies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Please
you.
take a vote.
And Chair Lawson Remer, that motion passes, with Supervisor Desmond voting no, all the supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you all very much. So we're moving on to item 29. Yep. Turn the floor over to Chair Pro Tem Aguirre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to start by acknowledging something very difficult. The recent allegations concerning Cesar Chavez are deeply disturbing, and they land at a time when communities across our country and around the world are demanding accountability for acts involving sexual exploitation and abuses of power. We're in a moment where people, especially women, are coming forward with traumas they have experienced that have too often been ignored or dismissed. And it is my firm belief that public institutions have a responsibility to take those concerns seriously and to respond with clarity and integrity. That responsibility extends to how we honor individuals. The names we choose to elevate and commemorate carry weight. They reflect our shared values and signal what we are willing to stand behind. And when credible concerns arise, it is appropriate to pause and reassess. Now, as we consider this item I have brought forward today, it is important for us to collectively reflect on the broader history of the farm workers movement. This was one of the most significant labor movements in the history of our country, driven by workers who organized to challenge unsafe conditions, low wages, and a lack of basic protections. We have to all remember that this movement was never the work of a single individual. It was built by a diverse coalition of Mexican, Filipino, and other immigrant communities. The movement ultimately succeeded because people came together across communities and took collective action. And the role of women in the movement was absolutely critical. They led efforts on the ground, shaping strategy and holding the movement together through incredibly challenging circumstances. Despite that, their contributions have not always been reflected in how this history is reported. Among the leaders who embodied the collective spirit of the farm workers movement was Dolores Huerta. She co-founded the United Farm Workers and helped lead major campaigns that brought national attention to the conditions faced by farm workers, including the Great Boycott that mobilized support across the country. Recognizing that broader history matters, especially in a moment like this. If we're going to revisit how we honor instrumental movements of the past, we must do so in a way that is more complete and more reflective of the people who carry the work forward. This item today achieves that by shifting the focus from an individual to the movement itself. Renaming Cesar Chavez Day to Farm Workers Day centers collective efforts and more fully recognizes the many people whose contributions made progress possible. These recommendations also align with broader calls for accountability we are seeing across the United States, especially calls for justice from the victims of sexual abuse nationwide. Ultimately, this change is a measured step, but an important one, and I believe this is a thoughtful and appropriate way for us as a county and as a country to move forward. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to move the item, and I hope to gain the support of my colleagues.
Okay, we will go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson Remer. We do have 10 total requests to speak, 3 individuals in person, and 7 requesting to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we did receive 2 e-comments on this item. Both were in opposition. For any individuals that have requested to speak on this item by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it's your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 1 minute to address the board. If you could please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I would like to invite forward allegedly Audra, Cesar Javier, and Catherine Rhodes.
Jim, I think Tara swallowed your balls. Paloma, nice try. You care about sexual assault victims. I think you're just embarrassed, but it's interesting because it's like, are we not adding 16 more beds to the Polinsky Center? Has that not been decades of abuse of children that has taken place, sexual abuse? Is there not sexual abuse that the county is covering up with Malika and Zaya Robinson and many other children? But yes, your political theater is so interesting. Yes, I see your finger that you're giving me, Paloma. See you next fucking Tuesday. Yeah. You want to flip me off? I'm flipping you off too. Right? Because you want to play this
Audra?
fucking game like you give a shit.
Audra, please.
She's flipping me off right now.
Audra, please.
You flip me off and I can't flip off.
Audra, please continue to make your comments relevant to the topic, which is the 29, topic 29. So go ahead.
Sexual assault victims.
So you can go ahead.
All right, thank you. Yes, fuck you, Paloma. You don't give a shit about fucking sexual assault victims. Right? Fuck you, you stupid cunt.
We are the protection unit volunteers. My God, you wanted to erase the name of Cesar Chavez and just make it the Farmers' Day? No, God, help us. Ms. Aguirre, my fellow citizen, we voted for you, Filipino people. You do not remember the contribution of Larry Ilyong? Read our history. Madam Step, law graduate, Western College. What are we here talking about? Put the name of a Filipino. Larry Ilyong, the pioneer, the first than our brother Mexicans. You know that, Sir Desmond. Please do something to honor a veteran, Larry Ilyong, who fought side by side against a common enemy.
Your time is up, sir.
Somebody left this? Is that yours? Hello, Catherine Rhodes, and thank you, Supervisor Gary, for doing this. You know, Dolores put her statement out online on March 18th, and it's been exactly 1 week. So thank you for moving this forward. I actually think that you should have it be called Farm Workers Endorse Herta Day. And I'm going to read something from her statement from her. I'm 96 years old, and for the past 60 days, I've kept a secret because I believe in exposing the truth. And basically what happened is she had 2 children by Cesar Chavez, and she put them up for adoption. And she didn't tell anybody for a long time, and just, I don't know how many years ago, she actually got a hold of the children, and she has met the children, and they actually have a relationship. But I think because of all that hurt, she should be lifted up, and we should actually say Dolores Herta instead of just only farm workers. Thank you.
Thank you. And one of our phone callers has moved to in-person, so I'd like to invite Joanne Fields to the podium. You'll have 1 minute to address the board.
Good afternoon. Sorry, I ran over here, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this item because it is so important. My heart goes out to Ms. Dolores Huerta. She is a leader that was violated. I believe that it had happened. And for her to be able to release this trauma, even in her 90s, is a major decision for her. But again, she's a role model. And for what she has spoken out on, and now that you're reconsidering renaming Cesar Chavez Day to Farm Workers, if it's Farm Worker Movement Day or Farm Workers Day, I appreciate you doing so. Because the Farm Workers Movement was more than one person, more than one ethnicity, and it shows how we work together. And we should continue that legacy of Latinos, Filipinos, African Americans, Anglos working together. So I'm in favor of Farm Workers Day, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, ma'am. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
there's a scandal, and suddenly you do a last-minute response. Posturing. In this political climate, I realize that it's important to keep a clean record, but I'm disturbed that Cesar Chavez and family and associates are being tarnished by mere allegations of improper sexual conduct, which happened years ago. No due process. No due process. It's unconstitutional. This sort of thing can happen to any prominent person. It often ruins lives and careers for pretty much nothing. Are you, and you wouldn't be the only county, are you doing this to take our minds off the child perversion you guys fostered? There are holidays where many people are involved, which are named for...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
I don't understand how you could flat out lie to the people and blame Donald Trump on issues that I clearly emailed you. I showed you where the problems came from regarding our housing. You flat out ignore all the rules that we went ahead and did, flat out lie, and laugh about it when you're doing it. You fucking cunt. I do not understand why you guys are trying to push us into fighting each other.
Time. Sir, your comments are not on topic. We're talking about renaming Cesar Chavez Day. This is the fourth time this meeting. You have forfeited your time.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
It's true, progressive puppets like Manuela are now pretending they care about women while they're silent on Newsom's release of violent sexual offenders that have raped women. Cesar Chavez hasn't received the due process progressives whined about for illegals. There's zero evidence to back up Dolores' claims. A woman who has 11 children from 3 different men, including 4 from Richard Chavez, Cesar's brother. See, Cesar's so bad, Dolores even praised him at his funeral. The Huerta Foundation was sued by former employee Ruth Sanchez for wrongful termination, discrimination, retaliation, and misappropriation of a $95,000 grant. Dolores needs a distraction from fraud allegations on the back of someone who can't defend himself.
Illegals coming in by the thousands. The citizen is out of a job. It's a vicious attack. Farm workers in California, even though a lot of them are Mexican descendants, are very mad about the illegals coming to break their strike. Takes away their jobs. Every business thinks they can get away with it. Our job is to inform the whole country what's happening.
Because you can't be pro-worker and pro-illegal immigration, you fakes. He said, call ICE.
Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Okay, Consuelo here. Oh, man, this is living in the matrix. Here we go. Okay, more hypocrisy from this board, more manufactured outrage, monkey see, monkey do, the more government putting their noses where it shouldn't be. Yeah, just as mentioned, where was the due process? I mean, you know, the left are always screaming and whining about this, but yeah, not this time, huh? Not for the dead Mexican. Anyways, so yeah, waste of time and money. This is none of our business again, but somehow the left has made it huge. Something smells fishy. Fishy, fish tacos. Okay, and yeah, again, I could care less about the left-right paradigm, but it is what it is. And I'll call it out when I see it because, again, it's something ain't right here. Decades later, and so you believe allegations.
Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
My name is Daniela Perez, and I am CEO of Mana de San Diego, a Latina-led organization dedicated to advancing leadership, economic mobility, and well-being for Latinas and their families. I want to begin by honoring the profound legacy of the farm worker movement. And in San Diego County and across the nation, their legacy continues to shape the opportunities and rights we have today. I support the intention behind recognizing Farm Worker Day. It is important that we uplift the collective contribution of farm workers, the many hands, histories, and communities that built this movement and continue to sustain it. At the same time, it is important to recognize survivors and recognize the impact of the harm that has been done.
Thank you. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you so much. Vice Chair Montgomery-Stepp.
Thank you, Chair. First, let me thank Supervisor Chair Pro Tem Aguirre for bringing this item forward. Thank you. Thank you to members of the public that called in that had something substantive to say. Joanne, in particular, thank you for being here. I used to see you a lot more than I do now, so it's good to see you. Last week, I called for the Tubman Chavez Conference Room at the Southeastern Live Well Center to be renamed. Although deep history is attached to that name, it no longer reflects the strength, dignity, and values this space should represent for our community. So I do support the call to rename Cesar Chavez Day as Farm Workers Day in the County of San Diego. This moment is also a reminder that no movement is defined by one leader. Real change has always come from people working together in a community. And right now, I want to take the time to uplift the Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, and Mexican workers who did most of the low-paid, physically demanding agricultural work in California. We heard the name Larry Itliong from one of our speakers. There's also the 5 martyrs of the farm workers movement that I want to remember, who also lost their lives during the struggle for civil rights for the farm workers who feed America. Non Freeman, an 18-year-old college student volunteer who was killed while picketing, was struck by a truck at a grower's entrance. Naji Dafala, a 24-year-old Yemeni immigrant and UFW picket captain who died after a sheriff's deputy struck him in the head with a flashlight during a protest in Lamont, California. Juan de la Cruz, a 60-year-old striker who was shot and killed while picketing during the 1973 grape strike. Rufina Contreras, a 28-year-old worker shot in the head by armed company foremen while trying to discuss working conditions in lettuce fields. Renee Lopez, a farm worker who was killed after participating in a strike for better conditions. And I want to just say, reiterate again to Dolores Huerta, who had the opportunity, as many of us did, have the opportunity to meet because she's so active in communities up and down the state and throughout the nation, that I honor her courage. Her decision to speak out was an act of bravery and only deepens the respect that I have for her. And to all of the survivors of the alleged abuse, we do stand with you. With that, I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Chair Pro Tem Aguirre.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Vice Chair, for sharing that important part of history that's always important to uplift those who've sacrificed their lives for the better cause, and especially, Dolores Huerta, as many of us have had the honor to meet, and certainly want to uplift her and other names that have been the victims of this type of abuse. And I also want to thank Joanne Fields for being here and supporting this item, and I wanted to uplift her. I don't know if you all knew, but she was just named Woman of the Year in my district, District 80th of the State Assembly. So thank you for your work. Thank you for always, speaking truth to power and for the work you do, especially on behalf of the AAPI community. That wraps up my remarks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'll just take a quick moment to appreciate you moving really quickly to bring this item forward. You moved very fast, very timely, and the situation, honestly, it's really, really, really sad. But I do think it does remind us that at the end of the day, change is built on movements of people working together and coming together. and so many people locking arms and fighting together to improve our communities. And it's not about one man or one woman or one icon. It's about people and movements and the change we make when we work together. So I think it's a really appropriate reframe and rename. I'm happy to support it as well. Thank you. Please take a vote.
And Chair Lawson, remember that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you. I do know that Supervisor Desmond is going to need to leave at some point, and there's some 4-vote items on consent. So we're going to go straight into Wednesday non-agenda public comment, and then after that we'll do the consent agenda, and after that we'll move to closed session. So Damon, situation awareness, probably más o menos an hour until we end up at closed session. Yep. Okay, please, Vice Chair.
I wanted to know when we do the committee updates.
I was going to do it at the end of the meeting.
Got it, that's fine.
At the very end of all the things.
Cool.
Today. Okay. So, Wednesday, non-agenda, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Lawson Reamer. We do have 14 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 7 individuals in person and 7 requesting to speak by phone. For those that have requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line now using those instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers, and we'll now randomly select the first 5 speakers in person. All remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I would like to invite forward the first 3 individuals, Gerald Flanagan, Dorothea Flanagan, and Ricky Robinson. We're doing All right, sir, you can begin your comments when you're ready.
District I represent, that's a good place. And it also is a good place for the Lord Jesus. I represent him also. My wife and I were driving down south on the Dels Dios Highway, saw the latest 3 billboards erected in formerly serene, unadulterated, scenic region of Lake Hodges. Will there be no scenic roads left in San Diego County? This time they were 48 by 55 feet wide. Was this an appeasement to mitigate all the harm being done by blight signage? This is the most serious damage that has purposely been done to San Diego County by politicians. Blackroom deals with billboards, operators, casinos, and attorneys bypassing a ballot measure so that voters could have the opportunity to protect their view of the mountain ranges, which we have plenty of, from visual pollution. Reno Devana residents defeated their billboard blight 25 years ago, and it was done by the ballot. One would think your job is to preserve the natural beauty of this city. Politicians sold out to the billboard companies for $3 billion just to become another Tijuana, Mexico. Please don't destroy.
Thank
you,
sir.
sir. Have a blessed day.
I brought one in so I could point to things to give an education to the people selling permits to these, what they call, it's smut. And it's done in a way that you really wouldn't understand it, but they sure know how to do it to get people to take their eyes off the road and try to figure out what's going on. The degradation of a divorcing woman, throw underpants in her face and make her nose look like a penis. Oh, is that a penis going through those pants? Oh, I get it. It's Disneyland. That's her nose because she's a liar. And this attorney he's not only unprofessional, he hates women. Now, somebody corrected me and said there's another one on the other side of the county of a man with a brassiere thrown in his face. So he gets just as much disrespect. I've had it with this stuff going in. We were never told by those sham representatives called community sponsor and planning groups. They never told us. I went to every meeting for the past 3 years. I know what's going on. I know how to do oversight. They never said billboards were coming into San Diego County, that the city of San Diego sold out first. And then the county came along and wrecked 4 already little towns with businesses and billboard, business, billboard. Ask any real estate appraiser what that does to the economics of a community. We don't want Bonsall ruined.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller, or next speaker, Ricky Robinson, and then I'd like to invite forward the final 2 speakers, Robert Gurman and allegedly Audra.
Non-agenda. Ricky Robinson speaking for every family in San Diego County and across America that has been crushed, silenced, or preyed on by this child trafficking machine. This machine has gone rabid. This machine has preyed on children and punished families for decades. It retaliates against families, targets speech, and abuses power while calling it protection. County Counsel Jessica Nicole Fellman, Guardian Ad Litem Supervisor Nicole McCann, social workers like Nicole Monzigo, David Miller are running wild, and Evelyn Lopez is being brutalized by them. She has committed no crime. There is no crime here. So why is this mother being treated with such cruelty, contempt, and punishment for trying to get her children back? This is child theft in broad daylight. This is retaliation in broad daylight. This is a human rights disgrace. There is proof, threats, recordings, and reports obsessing over blogs, photos, podcasts, protests, and public speech instead of actual child safety. Evelyn Lopez, Malaika, and Zaya have suffered far too long. This is an absolute outrage. Return Malaika and Zaya home to their mother. Evelyn Lopez now. Talking about behavioral health here, when you take children and traumatize them, and then you put them with mentally ill caregivers like Norma Oliveras, what do you get? More mentally ill. And if you falsely imprison me for saying Malaika and Zaya and showing their faces, you might as well just call me Ricky San Diego, California, because I'm going to own this town. You put me in jail for not committing a crime, call me Ricky San Diego.
Next speaker.
Thank you.
As a follow-up to the discussion of ICE building a detention center at Gillespie Field, after I saw this article, now you know that you're not as naive as maybe you were before. as asking if ICE came to the Planning Commission or to the airport. They're not going to do that. They're going to be secretive. That's Troops Army. There is no transparency. Nobody's going to know that what they're building until the immigrants are bussed in and flew out. That's what Gillespie there is for. That's what the Wall Street Journal article was about that I gave you. And this, now it's finally coming to the news, and that's exactly what I kind of portrayed, or I tried to portray down here to the Board of Supervisors, is somebody better be watching Gillespie Field before it's too late. Because you're going to have an ICE detention center down there already built by a straw contractor, and ICE is going to come in. And if it's not an ICE detention center, what the heck are they building? That should have been the question. That should be the question. What are they turning dirt for down at Gillespie Field when about a third of the businesses down there are in default of their monthly payments, especially the e-commerce building on Wells Street? 20% of that huge warehouse is occupied by an old business, GKN, that's been there forever. What are we doing, building more empty warehouses on taxpayers' land? He's not even making the payments at the last time I did any research. So I think we ought to keep an eye on Gillespie Field and ask some serious questions. In fact, the question I would like you to ask, how did they get the 70 acres? Thank you.
Thank you.
Romans 1:28, that if those who have turned away from God, he gives them over to a reprobate mind, and that's where we're at. He's given you over to spiritual wickedness, which you guys are engaged in. And it is clearly evident when you sit here and you claim to care about sexual assault victims. You're claiming that, and you're doing something that is political right now, going and renaming Cesar Chavez Day and whatnot. But you have plenty of evidence to shut down Polinsky Center. You have plenty of information to look into Malaika and Zai and the sexual assault and the woman named Gigi that she reported that you and county council have buried under the rug. As a victim, it is appalling to see the way that you guys virtue signal and sit here and pretend to care. Tara, what if your daughter was the one whose bedroom was broken into and she was raped in her own bedroom by an illegal alien? Would it matter to you then? Because it didn't matter to anybody when that happened in Linda Vista. It doesn't matter to anybody that children at Polinsky Center for decades have been reporting abuse. You guys are adding more beds to that place. And you sit up here on this dais and we pay you fucking money to hide the truth, to bury it under the rug and sit there and act like you care about victims. You create them. And then if they don't capitulate to your demands, you give them behavioral health therapy. Put them on psychotropic drugs. Kids who have been in the foster care system, who have been abused, are put on psychotropics so they shut the fuck up. And you sit here and you claim that you care? It shouldn't have to happen to your daughter, Tara, for it to fucking matter. When are you guys gonna do something except for political theater and act like you do fucking care? You don't. And it's a disgrace. And you will all burn in hell for it.
All right, we will now go and hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, in accordance with the board's rules, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
My name is Kathleen Lippett. Most major U.S. blue cities' budgets are in the red. New York and California are among the richest political jurisdictions in the U.S. California's abundant natural resources and private universities have created massive wealth. A lack of basic services challenges all but the wealthiest to remain in California. Upside down board priorities are inexplicable. Criminal justice is not served by handing out pot licenses to grow, manufacture, and sell high potency products. Criminals are prioritized over victims and law-abiding citizens. Pristine, unincorporated lands are destroyed to accommodate large energy companies. Health care, fire insurance, if you could get either, are unaffordable. School choice will never happen with unions in charge. Deteriorating infrastructure has resulted from years of deferred maintenance. Yesterday's board meeting was a shameful display of partisan politics and Machiavellian tactics to undo term limits, spend rainy day funds, and disrespect our district attorney. Under the DA's competent leadership, millions in settlements and judgments accrued. The chair's response was to pillage DA funds to create a new bureaucracy she would control that would be bloated and ineffective. The public needs protection from Tara Lawson-Remer's avarice. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hi, good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Madison, and I wanted to speak about my concern, which is the same as many county planning groups' concern, over the continued marijuana retail expansion and the direction of the county's social equity cannabis program. We have to honestly examine what expanded marijuana commercialization means for today's youth and young adults. The practical result of social equity cannabis licensing is more marijuana businesses, more storefront visibility, and more normalization of a mind-altering substance in communities where young people are growing up. Today's marijuana products are highly potent, heavily marketed, and increasingly associated with mental health harms in adolescents and young adults. Research continues to show links between teen marijuana use and increased risks of anxiety, depression, suicidal thinking, and psychosis, especially because the brain continues developing well into the mid-20s. Young adults are also at a vulnerable stage for motivation, learning, and long-term mental health stability. When more retail locations open, prevention becomes harder for families, schools, and communities. Greater density would mean greater exposure, greater normalization, and often easier diversion to underage users. A policy intended to create opportunity should not unintentionally increase harm in neighborhoods already carrying significant health burdens. I hope the county will carefully reconsider whether expanding marijuana retail truly serves long-term community well-being, especially for younger generations who have to grow up with this. Real equity should include protecting youth and young adults from increased exposure to substances that can negatively affect mental health, educational outcomes, and future opportunity for them. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I'm a parent, a public health educator, and a county planning group member. When reviewing the budget yesterday, it is important to understand the role of smoking and vaping-related disease and death, as it is very important to address disparities. The overall conclusion that smoking and vaping takes a higher toll on the less advantaged people is not new, but needs to be carefully regarded when policies regarding smoking and vaping are considered. Here in California, Stan Glantz, faculty member at the University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine in the Division of Cardiology, stated, and I quote, "It is important to recognize the growing role of cannabis contributing to health disparities, especially given the prevalence of tobacco and cannabis co-use in youth and young adults, and the social, economic, and health disparities associated with chronic or daily use of marijuana or tobacco use, which is of grave concern for public health educators who work on behalf of 18 to 30-year-olds, and those of us who are a parent to that age group. Protecting all county residents from exposure to secondhand tobacco and cannabis smoke in all indoor and outdoor settings should be a priority. Reducing the availability, the advertising, the billboards, and the storefronts related to tobacco and marijuana should be a priority of our county now. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Becky Rapp, and today I'd like to speak to an item that was addressed at yesterday's meeting, and that's the creation of the Consumer Fairness and Public Protection Unit. Consumer protection is important, and we all support that goal. But I want to speak to something more important than policy itself, and that's the respect, leadership, and tone being set in this chamber. There's a growing concern in our community that we're losing a sense of respect for how decisions are being made. And what happened yesterday proves that. When a proposal of this magnitude moves forward without meaningful discussion and support from the District Attorney Summer Steffen's office, it raises questions, not just about policy, but about the process. The DA's office has a long-standing track record, so if there is a gap, the public deserves to clearly understand what that gap is. Supervisor Desmond said it perfectly when he questioned what problem is actually being solved. And Supervisor Anderson asked for more time and input. And the DA herself emphasized that collaboration and trust between agencies are essential. Yet despite all of that, this appears to be moving forward. The board sets the tone and the precedence for how government works together. And that precedent should be one of collaboration, transparency, and most importantly, respect. When leaders work around each other instead of with each other, it doesn't strengthen public trust, it just weakens it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our fifth and final speaker.
Good afternoon, Peggy Walker. Unsettling county information presented today regarding substance use-related youth mental health problems further begs the question of why plague us with marijuana expansion, adding to multiple reasons not to, is county data predicting a 129% increase in youth substance use. This challenges the wisdom of exposing youth to high-potency THC products. Data shows kids living in neighborhoods near dispensaries have higher rates of use and psychosis, and more so in Black and low-income communities. Large-scale studies document devastating physical and mental health harms to those under 25, evidenced by high county marijuana-related ER hospitalization and youth treatment rates. Research institutions have totally debunked medical claims. Media once in favor, but now acknowledging adverse outcomes for youth, are calling legalization wrong. And multiple jurisdictions recognizing youth harms are backtracking legalization. Let's be clear. The pot industry business model is to hook future generations and keep existing users dependent. No reparation or tax revenue can justify the resulting child poisonings, addiction, physical and mental illness, cannabis hypermesis, psychosis, suicide, DUI entries, and death. Not one young person's life or future is worth the trade-off. Allowing expansion will hold this board accountable for every preventable harm that follows this policy. If justice is your goal, invest in viable job training for so-called victims, not a predatory industry built on exploitation of our young people. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this afternoon. Again, all remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Okay, thank you so much. We're now going to move on to consent. Oh, sorry, apologies. Now we must consider approval of the statement of proceedings and minutes for the Sanitation District of March 3rd, 2026. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Second, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
And Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Okay, now we will move on to consent. Does anyone have any items to pull?
I'd like to pull item 8, please.
Okay, Supervisor Geary would like to pull item 8. Anyone else have any items to pull or any comments to make?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment on item 3 and pull item 6. Item 3, I appreciate the thoughtful approach to the energy study that's presented here. I also want to give a shout out to the folks in Borrego Springs. They're the ones who urged us to pursue additional analysis for infill capacity for solar energy, and they were right on the mark. While there's still a work in progress, staff's initial finding is that only 1/3 of our capacity for infill renewable energy is currently being utilized. So to me, it's obvious we need to do more work before declaring utility scale solar in the backcountry. It is not the cheapest and the best path forward. Again, big shout out to Borrego Springs, and I look forward to future updates. Thank you very much.
Okay, item 6 has been pulled, item 8 has been pulled. Anyone else? Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp?
No comments. I move the balance of the consent agenda.
Okay, I'm happy to second that. We can go to public comment now.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. And we have 9 total requests to speak on items on the consent agenda, 3 individuals in person and 6 requesting to speak by phone. Again, as a reminder, items 6 and 8 were pulled from the consent agenda for discussion. So any individual that requested to speak on those items, if you could please hold your comment until the board discusses those items. We will receive public comment on those items separately. We will begin with the in-person speakers For any individuals that requested to speak on the remaining items on the consent agenda, if you could please dial into the conference line now using those instructions that we provided to you. Now we will begin with the in-person speakers. Again, as your name is called, please come forward, stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record, and also when speaking, please identify which items on the consent agenda you are speaking to. I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra, Cesar Javier, and Michael King.
Wish we lived in a world where you guys actually were beneficial to the people. Yeah, it's interesting for this energy supply study. Reminds me of when Nathan Fletcher was chair and the people from Hakamba came out. They were bussed out and they were trying to say, we don't want that solar field in our town. They weren't even going to benefit from it. In fact, the energy was going to come here into San Diego. Yet it got pushed through and money got pushed into the people. Hey, we'll give you, let's just like throw a couple $1 million at them, even though these people can't even leave that community because they can't afford to live anywhere else. And that's going to be in their community very soon. There's already one close by, but you know, you do things and you circumvent the will of the people. All those people in that community didn't want it, and it happened anyway. And that's what's going on. And all of the energy you guys want to bring in is toxic. Yet you claim that you want to save the planet. You have all of these lithium bombs that you're putting around with BESSes and different things like that, knowing that it's going to create a fire that you can't even put out. You can't even douse it with water. You could put them in the water and they'll still burn. But yeah, that's smart, right? And then you guys, you know, put people in fire dangers by all of the infrastructure that you want to implement, like with your, you know, Green Street projects, different things like that. You're doing it because you want to build a 15-minute city. Let's be honest with the people and tell them that you're pushing a United Nations agenda. Why do we have to lie to the people? I don't know why you guys can't just be straight up and honest. Why not? Why are you so scared of that? Why do you want to bury the truth and sit up here because you want people to think that you care about them? Because people believe that, and they suffer because of you guys. I mean, look at Tijuana River Valley. It's an emergency still, decades later. It's a crisis. Oh my gosh, let's take care of it. Just like COVID, right, Jim? And we stayed in the emergency for the money, right? It's so interesting to see the things you guys do. And then even the water resources. Let's give people back their own sewage and call it pure water. It's so good. Woe to you guys.
Who will protect us? You? You? Who will protect us? we volunteer. That's why we are here, to help you protect us. This is an era where we have to open our soul and heart and brain, because this is the unseen enemy. Something we drink from this glazed ceramics product, supposed to be clean water, supposed to be clean air, supposed to be clean food. Are you helping us protect us? This is all about all these items from A to Z, every meeting. And thank you, there is just a hint of solving that Tijuana River toxic water, land or soil, air. After 1993 beginning crisis, APCD, hey, finally did the reading, July of 2024, before Chair Vargas stepped down. You know that, Ma'am Rimmer? And now we have here another governing board member, Aguirre, and Senior Rimmer. Let us decommission APCD and bring 6 good-thinking people, logical reasoning people with the loose LUEG, so that we could save money. Thank you. Hear us.
Good afternoon, Chair Lawson Reamer and supervisors. My name is Michael King, and I am a conservation organizer with the Sierra Club of San Diego. I wanted to speak to items 1 and 2 in support. We strongly support both the Tijuana River Valley Lesage Restoration Project and the hearing for the Iron Mountain Preserve expansion. The Lesage project will restore habitat, improve air and water quality, and bring much-needed climate resilience to communities like Imperial Beach and San Isidro, which have long faced environmental injustice. We are especially encouraged by the practical use of nature-based solutions in this project. And we similarly support expanding the Iron Mountain Preserve, which protects 380 acres of sensitive habitat and supports species like the Blainville horned lizard and strengthens regional biodiversity under the multi-species conservation program. Both projects deliver real climate benefits while showing that conservation and smart growth can go hand in hand. We urge you to move these efforts forward as critical investments in our region's environmental health and resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. Again, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Let's remind everyone, Proposition 13 cut the finances to San Diego County. Now, knowing that, we could go ahead and regain some of that money to fix our infrastructure and make batteries that actually don't require to export slave labor and, destroying the environment to other countries. We could actually recycle the plastic, use the byproduct from the recycled plastic to create graphene batteries, carbon-based batteries. That you don't have to worry about the same fire issue than you have with lithium. They charge faster, last longer, and they're completely and utterly recyclable. If you guys actually believed in half the bullshit that you spill out, you would have adopted this years ago when I first told you about it. But no, you're all fucking cunts, and all you want to do is rip money from us, and you think that there's not going to be bad consequences to these actions. You're going to allow our elections to still be fraudulent so that you can push these agendas through without any hesitation. You want to replace our CAO with an elected official because Ebony sometimes pushes against you, and you don't like that. So you want to replace her, replace a person on top of the county with an elected official and have a legal team that could go after whoever the fuck you want to. And you want to extend it for another 4 years. The same union that said we needed to have term limits. Now we don't need term limits because you guys are sucking their cock, apparently. That you're willing to go in and do whatever the fuck they tell you to do because you're their little bitch. That's the truth. Be honest with the people about that. Instead of fucking hiding, instead of blaming fucking other people for your own fucking mistakes.
Your time is up. We're going to our next caller.
All bold. 2. So you are taking $2 million from the unlocked reserves for the Iron Mountain Preserve. The reserve should be used for emergencies, for people, not for land. This is a stupid take, or theft maybe. But even for land, it's ridiculously expensive. 4.9 million, 12.9 thou per acre, and then the appraised value is only 4.4 mil, 500 thou less than you're buying it for. Wonder which real estate mogul will be profiting. 1, the Osage Environmental Remediation Project in the TJ River Valley is good. Might even clear the air a bit. Certainly reduce the amount of trash. 5, Cameron Corners. Safer? Given all the excess fluorine and other chemicals and junk the state seems to be allowing, perhaps you need a better source for the grant. And how did the uranium get into the water? Is the state trying to poison us that way now? All I can say is that the program sounds good. Which more information was attached? Golf Club Drive, I looked at it carefully. The project focuses on passive ecological water quality improvements through nature-based solutions. Looking at the map, I see no reason for an elaborate water filtration system at the former golf course. 3, update on the energy supply study. That year involving tribal governments and all energy conversations because they probably...
Your time is up. We're going to go to our next caller.
Hey, it's Truth. Item 3. Who in Borrego Springs wanted non-recyclable solar panels, Jim? His item doesn't say that happened. I bet if I asked the average person, they'd want to slap this board at hearing that overt lie. No wonder you voted yes to whatever the progressives wanted for Cesar Chavez. Pathetic. A contract with Colorado-based nonprofit Alliance for Sustainable Energy, LLC, who somehow has a $786 million budget, yet doesn't have a working website. Weird, huh? Somehow they're overlooking the National Laboratory of the Rockies, previously known as the National Renewable Energy Lab, a national lab belonging to the U.S. Department of Energy. So Trump does support the Green New scam then, because if he didn't, this tech would be shut down on a major scale, especially because it benefits communist China, who allegedly was Trump's enemy at one point. Remember that was like a couple months ago, wasn't it? This item refers to including impacts of no project options. What does that mean? The consideration of no project? Can we do that? Can we just do that and end this? The multi-million-dollar studies at neighborhood or community scales to understand how projects could support or strain the existing infrastructure and grid. What a waste of tax dollars. If you don't know if solar panels can sustain even a small community, why would you waste money studying it? Why would you even pursue such a ridiculous goal if it's going to strain the grid or not sustain the grid? Why would you even consider that technology? It obviously doesn't work. You guys are absolutely ridiculous. And I have a question regarding the entire consent, actually. If it's truly one meeting, why not equally split the agenda? Why are there still 2 agendas? Land use and general legislative, whatever it's called. Is it because Tara's a liar who does everything she can to limit public comment? You guys need mental help, seriously.
We will go to our next caller.
Okay, Gonzalo here. I didn't bring my paper, and I'm in my car, and I'm pulled over, and I'm going to just have to recycle something for consent calendar. We're on consent calendar, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so with this consent calendar, just wanting to remind the people how government actually works. People continue to come here. Oh, all items. Excuse me. People continue to come here asking, even begging government to do the right thing. But somewhere along the way, people have forgotten something very important. Government doesn't work for the people. They work for globalists. They work for an agenda. And that's where we're at. And what we continue to see is more and more homeless living on the streets, and families struggling when they should be comfortable in their homes, people who are not supported, you know, they're just pushing to survive. Let's see. At the same time, we watch government stand here and present solutions, programs, plans, initiatives, but like everything else, yep, the word of the day is Band-Aid solution. Temporary fixes that never seem to resolve the root of the problem, because if the problems were truly solved, we know there would be nothing left to manage. So instead, what happens? The issues get prolonged, kicked down the road, passed from one administration to the next, year after year, budget after budget. Meanwhile, the people continue to struggle. So let's be clear. Government does not resolve problems. They manage them. That's sustainability, right? It sustains them. And in many cases, it expands them. And that brings me to the hardest truth people need to hear.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on the items on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor in a second. Can we please vote?
And Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Okay. We will do item 6, which was pulled from consent, and then we'll go to closed session. Do you need to leave right now, or do you want to do closed session? Okay. So we'll do item 6, and then we'll go to closed session. Go ahead.
Public comment? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We do have 6 total requests to speak, 2 individuals in person, and 4 requesting to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we did receive 1 e-comment on this item, which was in favor. For any individuals that have requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will, let's see, go ahead and begin with our in-person speakers as I pull them up. I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra and Cesar Javier. You will have 2 minutes to address the board.
Since 1982, this plot of land has been held captive, and we have to come to the board to release it back to the people that it was confiscated from. Which is interesting. It was supposed to be used to expand freeways. We know we don't want to be driving. Nobody should be driving. It's dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous. Pedophiles running rampant, on the other hand, is not. That's cool. We perpetuate that. But, I mean, we got to get people out of their cars to save the planet. It's so smart. And so we can't expand the freeways and use this land for that. So we're going to go ahead and give it back to the person that owns it after 43 years. And we have to come to the Board of Supervisors to do that. Is there anything that we don't have to, like, ask your permission to do? Like, are we going to get charged just to take a shit later? Like, is it going to be like, do you need to go 1 or 2? You're going to have to get a permit for that? We're not sure. It's going to cost quite a bit if you have to, like, flush a couple of times. And, yes, I'm talking about the easement. Right, Tara? Yes. And how, you know, if we don't want to be driving and stuff, I mean, that's a good reason to give it back, isn't it? I mean, wonder if you're going to take that guy's car if he continues to drive. What else? Like, what else can we give permits for? Breathing? I mean, is there going to be only a little bit of air that's going to be left? Is that something that you guys are going to be staffed to do? To take our money and figure out how much air people would be allotted in a 24-hour period? And it's like, if you use too much, you know, you're going to have to pay an extra fee. But you could give some, like, air credits to somebody else, and they could use it. And then, like, if you fart too much, I mean, you're going to have to pay a little bit extra. But, you know, you could have somebody fart for you and then basically give you a credit for that. So, business in the county is good. Good job, you guys.
In memory of a warrior, Captain Bacon, Filipino-American. If the reason for vacating this piece of land, Ma'am Lanyus, listen please, because you're reasoning that you cannot help us erase or defeat toxicity in our neighborhood, you are deadly wrong. And just comment, it hurts us. Lanyus says, no project, no program, if it's not in accord with health and safety. You are wrong, Ma'am. Please admit it. We forgive you. We are all humans. But the point here is, let's just do something positive, no matter how small. Like a golfer, you're playing to left or to right. We need it straight, no matter how short, but straight. Analogy, metaphor. We forgive you, forgive us too. If only to vacate that space, we are given two choices. Build a green incinerator or build a green, well-designed landfill to throw out our waste and garbage P, which Madam Steep is one of the conspirator in the increase in our garbage P. Right, ma'am? Or the culprit in the under the table, what is that? Density issue, footnote 7. Try to recall history, ma'am. We know that because we are here consistent to see where accountability lies. And it lies in you guys, elected officials of the city of San Diego. Thank you, God. Help us.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Paul Abode, this summary location of a highway slope easement in the Fallbrook area, it sounds good. After 42 years, it's long overdue. I don't know what took so long to decide that no one actually needs it. But knowing how slowly you guys work and what little imagination you put into some things, I can guess. Anyway, it's a raw deal for the guy who has to pay $6,500 to get his land back. I mean, I don't even know if it's the same guy. Actually, maybe it's a different guy who has to pay $6,500, which sucks. I mean, buy property, pay a bit more to make sure the property's whole. I mean, gee, that doesn't sound very good at all. And, you know, the idea of having to pay for basically what is a mistake that the county made in acquiring land it didn't need. I mean, that's, you know, like, it's like finding someone for something he didn't do. And, you know, that you ought to split the costs at least I think he should really absorb the costs. It's your error. You ought to have some grace about, admitting it. Anyway, that's about all I have to say.
Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
So are we talking about you guys stealing land from someone, not actually using it, not actually needing it, and then now giving it back? So curiosity, what taxes is he going to have to pay on that land? Today's value or the value when you took it from him? I think it should go back to the value that you took it from him 45 years ago. I don't think he should pay additional taxes from the fact that you made everything cost 10 times as much money. I mean, isn't that what Proposition 13 is? Any corporation that wants to go ahead and do subdivisions and all that stuff, they get a locked-in value, and then they bring up the value of everywhere else, and so now it makes it more difficult for anyone doing additions or fixing up their houses, because then they're going to have to pay an ungodly amount of taxes because of this project, right? I mean, so you're going to basically create slumlords, all because you could get the money in a different fashion by recycling our plastic, by adopting Julian Brown and African-American kids technology, a kid that did it in 17. You could inspire a whole group of youth. But everything that you guys say is just fucking talk. You're full of shit. And I really cannot wait until the day that the people realize that.
Okay. This is your 5th time calling and being off topic, so your time is forfeited. Thank you.
We'll go to our next speaker.
Okay, Consuelo here. So let's see. Adopting a resolution. Okay, 42 years later. Yeah, that sounds about right with government timing. There's hope for the Tijuana sewage issue. Yeah, okay. So I know I'm limited with timing, and I am reminded with a message, it was a pop-up message, that we rise by lifting others. So let me rise a little bit, and let me try and lift you all up. Here we go. If you claim to love your neighbor, you can't stay silent about the systems that crush them. And I love my neighbors. That's why I don't keep silent, and I pay attention to these boring meetings. You must want for their family every good thing you want for yours. And I promised you, that is what I want. I want that for everyone. And for people to get their land back, and for, the wealth to go to where it belongs, to the good people of the world, not the cheaters, the liars, the scammers, pedophiles. Yeah. So what other words of wisdom do I have here? Yeah, I think that's all I got. If you will ever, no, not that one. It's better to be labeled difficult than allow yourself to be treated like a doormat. We're not doormats. So stop treating us like that. Taxpayer, cattle. We're more than that. People need to wake up to how powerful and how amazing they really are. I got one more. Cheers to everyone.
Your time is up. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay. Thank you very much. This was originally in consent. Supervisor Desmond had to recuse himself because he had a conflict. So he is gone. We can go ahead and take a vote. I'm happy to make a motion. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
And Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with Supervisor Desmond recusing himself and all other supervisors who are present voting aye.
Okay. So just a kind of a brief on what's next for today. We have remaining on our agenda, we have item number 8, item number 10, non-agenda comment, and adjournments in memory and closed session. This is for my colleagues in the public's awareness. We are moving to a new model where we're trying to have a little more clarity around time of closed session so that the external attorneys can plan accordingly. So the time I predicted for them was between 3 and 5. So we can continue on with this agenda for about another hour. But if we're not done by about 4:30, we will have to go into closed session, do closed session, and then come back. Okay? Does it make sense to everybody? Okay, great. So we will go ahead and move on to item 8.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pulled this item to underscore the significance and reiterate how essential these declarations of emergency are in addressing the longstanding public health crisis that's related to the Tijuana River. Last week, 2 sewage spills occurred in Mexico. The following days were absolutely horrendous for all of us living down there. What's most concerning is that the levels of hydrogen sulfide far exceeded the state standards, which is 30 parts per billion. APCD data recorded hourly averages near 500 parts per billion, and UCSD data showed spikes up to 2,500 parts per billion. I can tell you from my personal experience, I couldn't even escape the smell in my own living room. That's how severe these events were. During the spikes, my office and county agencies moved quickly to respond. I want to express my gratitude to Health and Human Services and APCD staff for enhancing the alert system, extending hours to 10 p.m. and beginning at 5 a.m., which normally it's more like 9 to 5, just to make sure that people had that information before they went to bed or before they took their kids to school. At the state level, the law gives the governor the explicit authority to, and I quote from the California Government Code section 8628, quote, during a state of emergency, the governor may direct all agencies of the state government to utilize and employ state personnel, equipment, and facilities for the performance of any and all activities designed to prevent or alleviate actual and threatened damage due to the emergency. Any agency so directed by the governor may expend any of the monies which have been appropriated in it to perform such activities, irrespective of the particular purpose for which the money was appropriated, end quote. So immediate actions that could take place under this statute include infrastructure upgrades to Saturn Boulevard, aka the hotspot in the Tijuana River Valley, air purifiers, or the most important one, which is eliminating the source itself by diverting and treating the river so that we can actually begin to breathe. So with that said, I'd like to take the opportunity of us considering this, I believe it's the 22nd iteration of the declaration of an emergency, to add an amendment to the item, which would be to move the staff recommendation with the additional direction that when staff next forwards this proclamation to the state, it includes the following documents, which the state can also forward to the federal government. A summary of recent county efforts and projects to mitigate the Tijuana River Valley pollution crisis, including but not limited to the Saturn Boulevard Hotspot Feasibility Study, the IDA Purifier Program enhancements, and an overview of pending epidemiological study and expanded syndromic surveillance efforts, an overview of data and regional actions taken in response to recent hydrogen sulfide spikes exceeding established California Air Resources Board public health thresholds, the United States Environmental Protection Agency and United States section of the International Boundary and Water Commission's joint record of decision for the final programmatic environmental impact statement, and a number of different academic publications, which I believe will be put up on the screen, including some recent studies by a number of researchers such as Dr. Kim Prather, Dr. Paula Granados from UCSD and SDSU. So I'm hoping to have the support of my colleagues in this amendment. I cannot reiterate enough how severe and just life-altering this crisis continues to be, but how much it's impacting us, especially as we're seeing these heat waves that cause a lot of these gases to be compressed closer to people. And most importantly, I worry about the children that are being exposed to all of this. So I'm hoping that with this renewed call for a declaration of a state of emergency and call to our governor for assistance, perhaps he will listen. Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor. I'm happy to second. Any other comments? Okay, go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We do have 8 total requests to speak, 2 individuals in person and 3 requesting to speak by phone. Or 2 requesting to speak in person, 6 requesting to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we did receive 2 e-comments on this item. 1 was in favor, 1 was in opposition. For any individuals that have requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using those instructions we provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers, and I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra and Cesar Javier. You will have 2 minutes to address the board.
It's interesting when crises become a routine business, right? Or just put it on the consent calendar and get that passed. It's really a crisis. We're really working very hard for decades to get this solved. You guys are doing a good job, right? Good job. Air purifiers, good job, right? Studies, let's study it. Let's not really go to Mexico and have them stop it. Let's spend more of the people's money to get us to divert it instead of saying we're not going to do commerce with Mexico. But that would be taking money out of your guys' pockets. You can't do that. Poor Paloma couldn't even breathe in her own living room. What a shame. Maybe we could study that, Paloma. Maybe we could study your lungs and see. How about that? Might be interesting to see what you find. You won't find a heart, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm just wondering like how long people are gonna have to suffer. How many more decades do you guys think this is gonna be routine for? Like, is it really considered a crisis after decades like that? I mean, good God. And you say you care about the children. You wanna study the children. Let's see what this is doing to them. You know, I'll give them an air purifier so they can still kind of breathe the air, but I can get in my data to, you know, make sure that we have data points too. Why is it that, you know, you're not upset with the governor? If it was Trump, you would be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that he's doing this. We're gonna have to do something about that. But you're like, let's send him a letter and see if he like wants to help us out. I mean, he might, right? I don't know. If you give him a blowjob, he might. Who knows? Oh gosh. I'm just wondering, do you guys have a timeline for that? You wanted to give us new time updates. So I'm wondering if we could have a time frame on when this crisis will be dealt with. Is there not enough money coming in yet? Yeah? Not enough people dying? They will eventually. It's cool. And then you guys can make money off of them.
We need brave men and women. This is a warfare against survival. Region 9 or San Diego County is an independent powerhouse for the survival of San Diegans. Why do we have to rely on others if we have this brain and hands and heart and soul? Why do we have to blame Uncle Sam? Why do we have to ask help from this goddamn governor? I'm ready to go to jail, if only to tell the truth, like what I did to the city hall, who are accountable, including you, Mom Stip. 11 elected officials who neglected, grossly ignored the very sign 33 years ago. Dissolve APCD. Investigate and apprehend and punish these people to the full extent of the law. Not shooting, because Councilor Lacaba is threatened by the word shooting. To the full extent of the law, you should be accountable. And if you cannot do the job, Mama Gire, 33 years, you have smelled that mess in your nose, and yet, by God, where is logic here? Where is our 10 fingers intelligences? Where are your 5 human dimensions, if I have to review? Moms, sir, there is still time. Let's work together. Let's have this council go right in the side and legislate before the victims so that they will be inspired and bring back the trust to you. Why not? Are we ready? No, because I might get sick. We need a force of law.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. We'll now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Hi, you fucking cunt. I don't understand why you have double standards based off of who's talking and what they're talking about, whether or not you're going to kick them out, and then you clearly let other people say whatever the hell they want. You're a fucking cunt for that. And Paloma, P, whatever fuck you are, that fake-ass bitch on the left. Yeah, no, you don't give a rat's ass about the kids, or else when a mother jumps through all the hoops to get her kids back, what you do is you go after the grandfather and have him try to throw him in jail. You care about the children that want to be back with the family. No, you want to go ahead and collect the money that you're going to acquire from doing all the therapy because you're fucking over the kids. You're screwing them up in the head. You're creating a victim class. That's what you're doing, you fucking bitch. And the fact that you guys don't want to go ahead and look at the people registering people to cheat to keep you guys, you bitches in office.
Please pause this time. I have been waiting and waiting patiently for any mention of anything related to the local emergency review proclamation of local emergency for U.S.-Mexico transboundary pollution environmental crisis and related CEQA exemption, which is item 8, which is the item we are on. This is the 6th time that you've called and been off topic. You have forfeited your time. Thank you.
We'll go to our next speaker.
All the bold. Why don't you send the Gov a 40-year history showing how much the county cares about this TJ River pollution crisis? The crisis now spreading countywide. This is more than a crisis, more than an emergency. Like it's an inaction almost. But your has been mostly to seek external resources, which takes months and years, if it even comes, since the feds and state are both pretty busted. We need local action, which would be quicker. The crisis is affecting people's daily lives. Daily. People are getting sick or worse. You mentioned local efforts in the last paragraph. We need action now, not in the future, not when Congress or the state can find the money to act. Mrs. Fetterman pointed out yesterday in item 19, by the way, that there is pollution from the U.S. So let's refocus on all of the polluters. I previously mentioned several possible solutions, like handheld pollution monitors to find out exactly which buildings and where the pollution is coming from. Look them up. But I cannot support the continuation of what is essentially an industry based on promoting the emergency rather than fixing it. Hopefully the Navy's TJ River Osage Restoration Project will improve the air enough. And, you worry so much about the children. They probably aren't foster or adopt.
Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Hey, it's Truth. I'm going to ask Chair Tara, please keep Manuela on topic during every item. because Joanne Fields was not an agenda item today. Now, apparently, Manuel has been smelling Mexico sewage down there in La Mesa. I didn't know you could do that. We know why Manuela had to pull this item. Not only does she love to hear herself deliver boring 20-minute monologues to nowhere that we all just ignore anyway, but because she's got to whine about Trump for the 100th time today. She's as bad as the deflector Sean Alo, fellow Working Family Communist Party member. And I was going to ask, where's Prather at? She's always wheeled out for Manuela's political theater show. But this time she just gets featured as a study profiteer as part of a last-minute agenda item change. Mexico sewage, which has been killing American citizens for decades, is addressed way less by Manuela than how much she addresses ICE and illegal aliens. Priorities. Things are yet again getting worse with no 100% solution. Zeldin insight. The hydrogen sulfide numbers off the charts, and yet the county, APCD, and Manuela refuse to ask the federal government for help because the bubbles actually worked. When they stopped the bubbles, things skyrocketed by about 10 times. All you got are Norris air purifier scam while people's health deteriorates. Manuela continues to grift off the sewage crisis industrial complex while peddling the fake solution of a state of emergency for like the 19th time. Pretty sure Newsom's made it clear for at least the 6th year in a row that he doesn't care. Just like Manuela doesn't care that the primary source of pollution is not the river, but Mexico's sewage that pollutes the river and the South Bay Ocean outfall. Now, Manuela and her mentor, Sludge Adina, is part of the reason why there's more sewage hitting the ocean than ever before. People in Imperial Beach can never forget at a council meeting last year when Manuela did everything she could to vote no on real solutions to the sewage. She was too concerned with protecting Mexico, the country she pretends to be born in. We've heard your two-way stories. So Manuela can take her finger motions and shove them where transparency doesn't shine. Have a good day.
Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Right on. Okay, here we go. So Consuelo here. Paying attention, you get to see the pattern of how different government agencies in the county operate. And, with this item, you guys have been given so many ideas for solutions. And you, like I've said in the past, you have the technology, you have had the money, and it doesn't really take much, man, honestly. Like, it's like, what we have a crisis of? Here we go. Ignorance is the real crisis from you guys, from local, federal, state government, and from the tax cattle indentured servants, quite frankly. I mean, ignorance is everywhere. And blind faith, blind trust. I mean, people continue to trust you, and they're like, it's like they haven't caught on to, hey, they're pitting us against each other. You know what I'm saying? And quite frankly, you guys sign up for this job. So all the pounding you're getting today, Tara, it's, you know what, girlfriend, you deserve it. You deserve it. You are a liar, and you're not going to be there long, just like Nora, just like Nathan. And, if things could be different, I chimed into a LAFCO meeting for the first time a bit ago, and I didn't even know LAFCO existed, let's put it that way. But for the very first time ever in any government meeting within the county, for the first time there was a man presenting, and he actually engaged and acknowledged it and said my name, and there was actual dialogue, and it was just so refreshing, because that's how it could be. But instead, it's like you guys want to act like the freaking victims, like a typical, it's just you guys want to play this part like we're just coming at you, but you don't listen, and that's the...
Your time is up. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a motion and a second. We can go ahead and vote.
And Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion. Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Okay, thank you so much. Item number 10, General Plan Annual Progress Report. We'll go ahead and take this. Okay.
Chair, we have a brief presentation, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to staff. Thank you. Good afternoon. Today we are presenting the 2025 General Plan and Housing Element Annual Progress Report. This report provides an update on housing production and housing element implementation over the past year. Overall, the county continues to make strong progress towards meeting its Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA. The county has exceeded its goals in the low, moderate, and above moderate income categories. However, production of very low income housing remains a challenge, with only 28% of the required allocation achieved to date. Housing production naturally fluctuates year to year, but we are still seeing development in the unincorporated communities. The county's RHNA share for the unincorporated area is 6,700 units. This graph shows how those units are divided across the affordability categories. These numbers reflect the total numbers of units assigned under each category. Within our very low category, we also track housing affordable to our lowest income residents, including acutely and extremely low income households.
The process for developing new housing starts when an application is submitted for a housing development project. Some applications require a discretionary review process, while others move to a ministerial building permit review process. Discretionary projects generally take longer and can be more expensive because they typically require environmental review and may require a public hearing before receiving approval. On the other hand, the ministerial process is generally faster and less expensive with less review involved. Recent state law and county initiatives have expanded the types of projects that are ministerial, making it easier to build housing. After a project application is approved, the next step is to apply for a building permit. Lastly, after the home is built, the county inspects it for safety, and if it passes final inspection, it is ready for move-in. This process can vary in length depending on the project, but most projects do not move through all three steps within the same year. In 2025, 8 applications associated with 471 units successfully completed review and were approved by the county. These approved projects are now ready to move forward into the building permit stage. Looking ahead, 30 new applications were submitted to the county for 489 housing units pending review. 932 housing units in the unincorporated area were issued building permits, allowing construction to move forward. A total of 943 new homes in the unincorporated area completed construction and were ready for move-in.
This bar graph shows our RHNA progress since 2021. The yellow lines represent our assigned RHNA for each income category. Now we'll focus on how the housing units that were issued building permits in 2025 contributed to that progress. 597 units were considered affordable to above moderate income households. 94 units were affordable to moderate income households. 165 units were affordable for low income households. We've exceeded our allocation in all 3 of these categories. 76 units were affordable to the very low income households, including 42 units for extremely low income. That puts us at just 28% of our goal for this category. These units are typically the hardest to build because they often require subsidies from the county or other government programs. Overall, we're halfway through the 8-year RHNA, and we've reached our 98% of our total goal for permitted units. Now, HCDS will discuss county efforts for affordable housing in the unincorporated communities as well as the region.
Thank you, Heather. During the 6th cycle housing element, the county invested more than $32 million towards 5 affordable housing developments in unincorporated communities, resulting in 338 units. Of these, 123 units are complete and 215 are underway. La Sabila is the first development in unincorporated San Diego County to include permanent supportive housing funded in part by the No Place Like Home program. The county also funded Marisol Meadows in Fallbrook, which is under construction and will add 54 new affordable senior units. It is important to recognize that RHNA progress does not fully capture the county's broader regional impact on affordable housing. Regionally, HCDS has invested over $237 million in affordable housing during this RHNA cycle. This includes 2,068 very low and extremely low income units that are already completed and occupied. 550 are under construction, and 907 units in the pipeline as of December 31st, 2025. Thank you.
In November of last year, the board hosted the Housing Forward workshop to reflect on progress, reaffirming policy priorities, and identify opportunities to advance housing solutions. participants emphasized the need for greater zoning clarity and streamlined development processes, village-focused, infill and VMT-efficient growth, innovation and non-traditional housing models, protections for renters and preservation of existing naturally occurring affordable housing, and stronger regional housing partnerships, acknowledging that housing challenges cross jurisdictional boundaries. We've continued to engage many of the stakeholders who participated in the housing workshop, including one-on-one discussions and a stakeholder roundtable to gather feedback on specific initiatives. The county has been advancing a series of housing initiatives that align with the feedback received at the workshop. So far this year, we've brought forward the separate sale of accessory dwelling units ordinance, which is the first of 4 housing-related zoning ordinance amendments for this year. Additionally, amendments will include options related to ADU ownership and the right of first refusal, the inclusionary housing ordinance, and the first phase of Housing Unlocked, which will address zoning barriers to facilitate the development vision of the general plan. This summer, we'll also return with a discussion on VMT mitigation options, the sustainable land use framework, and a housing workshop led by our partners at Housing and Community Development Services. The second phase of Housing Unlocked and additional housing-related updates are anticipated to continue into 2027. In closing, staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors find that today's actions are not subject to CEQA and accept the 2025 General Plan and Housing Element Annual Progress Report. This concludes our presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, we'll go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 9 total requests to speak, 3 individuals in person, 6 requesting to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we did receive 1 e-comment on this item, which was in opposition. For any of the individuals that requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial on the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra, Cesar Javier, and Catherine Rhodes. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
You guys need over 100,000 homes. Good job, right? And I feel like, 132%, 28% for the ones you guys need the most. Good job, right? The low income, we're doing a really good service to them. What I'm thinking is that you guys are looking at this the wrong way, and I feel like it's a little xenophobic. What I think is that we need to understand there are a lot of undocumented immigrants in this county, and how many of them need a home? And how long is it taking you guys to provide these homes? So I think if we put that in the forefront, because it's very xenophobic and bigotry to not address this and make sure that we're getting these people into homes, right? That's pretty disgraceful to have them come to our country and we don't just give them whatever they want. So I feel that you guys could probably speed up this process if you made that part of like a motion to make sure that we're going to ensure that all of the undocumented immigrants in San Diego County are going to get into these homes lickety-split. You could totally exempt the CEQA, forget about the permits, just build, you know what, have them build them. I'm sure that they would help. And they would probably like that because they would be also having a job, right? So I feel like you guys are actually being really racist by not doing that. And it's a disgrace to have these children suffer like that. You guys care about the children. So instead of slapping them in the face by going, we don't have anything for you, I think you guys need to get on this lickety-split. We're on a time crunch, okay? So I think you guys could probably provide thousands of homes in especially if they helped, probably a couple months. So I think that you guys need to chop on this because it looks very disgraceful when our community stands for this kind of help with these people, okay?
We have been discussing from birth to grave how San Diegans will thrive from that particular period handed down by the Almighty. Housing, sheltering is the second element, if I may just explain that way, in rural and urban planning, right, engineers, urban planners? We share the same ideas. And as we live here since 1999, as an immigrant by choice and by affection handed to us by Uncle Sam, we only see, learn, and teach. Unfortunately, my graduate studies in education has not been paid fully. My tuition fee is still there hanging, and I cannot pay it. But now Uncle Sam knows that I am still teaching. I hope it could be written off. We must learn, because all our intentions is it is being destroyed by this political virus we name Ilo Rivera, the classmate of Madam Steep, Western Law School. You know this guy? He's trying to be the mayor, campaigning as mayor. What is a house when no one is there? What is these painted buildings? Beautiful, architecturally created by hands, by San Diegans. These are all business. They have the money. Our lawful authorities approve because there is that kickback. And that's where you live, and that's why you are here, and that's why you wanted to stay here. Step down. Step down if you cannot do your job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Catherine Rhodes, and I came here today with City Council District 2 candidate Mandy Havlick this morning for non-agenda public comment, but we'll talk about that. And mainly because there are some Claremont seniors that are living on your property on Mount Edna Drive that their rent got put up 10%. This is within their first year of actually living in your property on Mount Etna Drive. So in your report here, page A170, you have of your general plan housing element annual progress report. You have the address of 5255 Mount Etna Drive. And here you have 404 affordable housing units that you had. Some of these units, I think like 65, are for people with mental retardation. You guys have a disposition and development agreement with Chelsea Investment, and then you have agreements with the San Diego Housing Commission. And the San Diego Housing Commission, said they're going to give you, I believe, 300 vouchers for this. Instead of giving you 300 vouchers and giving these people some, not stressing them out, they've given letters to basically said, if you can't pay your rent, you're going to be homeless. That's not cool. And I would like some help from my supervisor, Tara Lawson-Reamer, I believe, that you're in charge of the Claremont area too. And so what we're looking for is to have a meeting with you and county staff so that we can help these seniors and these people with mental retardation not have all the stress they're having. Right now, they're crying. They're trying to get the media involved, but they can't get any help. And then, the faith-based community wants to have tiny homes on their property using Yes in God's backyard. But county staff didn't allow, basically they said, we're not going to give you any money for kitchens or bathrooms or any type of money to, plan it for like a year. We have solutions. We can give you all your extremely low income goals. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. Then you will hear a recording to tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller. Paul, you are our first caller. You're connected. Your device may be muted. Oh, hold on. I see what's going on. Our phone line is disconnected. 1 second while I troubleshoot this. we look connected, so now we will go ahead and, oh, that caller just left. Okay, so for any of the callers that just left the queue, it is your turn to call back in. We will go ahead and give you a moment to do so since we had some technical difficulties. All right, here's our first caller. Unmuting them.
Item number 10, building new houses and all that stuff, which is a load of crap. We don't need more houses. Look at how many houses over there. If you want to go ahead and help people out, how about reduce our taxes? I have a great idea. If we were to recycle our plastic, because our landfill is going to overflow within 5 years, if you sit on your ass and do nothing about it, which clearly that's your plan. You could recycle the plastic right here, right now, and create revenue so you don't have to tax the people. Maybe some people that would not need assistance if you did not try to take every single penny from them.
Okay, please pause this.
But for some fucking reason.
This is the 2025. This is the 2025 General Plan, Housing Element Annual Progress Report, and related CEQA exemption. It is not about plastic or recycling. So you have now forfeited your time. This is your 7th time calling in this meeting, speaking off topic. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to our next caller.
Paul Bold, the housing agency does not support the building of cheaper housing than conventional, which is quicker to build. 3D printed, so-called tiny homes, shipping crate homes, maybe Adobe homes, as we keep telling you. These would not only be cheaper, but also keep up with the market for new homes better instead of houses that might not be built for years, and then it would be less likely to end up with an oversupply of houses. There also needs to be more than 5 housing, 30% AMI, that is, per HUD. And this is what needs to be guaranteed, not below 50% or up, or the developer can kind of pick and choose whom to let in. Hasn't happened yet. The chart on page 825 shows no homes completed for equally low-income persons and only 21 for extremely low. The housing agency needs to do better for the affordability or homeless crisis. Apparently, the housing agency is enthralled to big developers like BlackRock, who have more interest in profit than people. Here's something funny. The agency favors, quote, coordination and outreach with developers, buildings, and property owners, unquote, on page 828. Buildings, I guess the people in them don't count. The number of house-poor homeless people in this county is ridiculous. The housing agency is part of this, so do not approve of its plan or...
Your time is up. And Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation, everyone, and PDS and HHSA and all the various departments that have to come together for this update. I know that Planning and Development Services in particular has been busy tracking all of the state planning and zoning initiatives. We appreciate that. And it's also encouraging to see that the county is on track to meet the 98% of its RENA allocation goals, especially going beyond the low-income housing allocation at 116%. I understand that the very low-income and extremely low-income areas are very challenging, but I do still think that we need to have a conversation about land trust and other things that we haven't necessarily explored too much yet that could address the challenges of construction costs and other costs related to permitting and housing development. As I mentioned before, I think it's a great opportunity to still utilize the County of San Diego and City of San Diego joint resolution that was done years ago to create the 10,000 affordable units on government-owned land to address such costs. I will take this time to say for the Mount Etna property, I know that we heard from two gentlemen who came in last month, and that there has been some interaction with county staff, but I just want to say, as a general matter, I don't know what happened with regard to our agreements that we had with other cities and developers prior to me being here. I think it's an awesome thing that we provide that land as our contribution to promote affordable housing. But if there is a 10% increase in rent after 1 year, that's a very big issue for me. And so I don't think that we're necessarily involved in that aspect of it, but I do think we should maybe look moving forward as to putting additional parameters on any land that we are giving away. Because that is not right, and technically Mount Etna and that part of Claremont is in District 4. So I just wanted to take that weight off because we have been communicating and that is in District 4. I've been there for the, ribbon cuttings and all of that, but I want to make sure that I'm representing something that gives people the longevity that they need as far as costs are concerned. So, okay, with that, I'm happy to move this item forward, and thank you for all of the work.
Okay, we have a motion. I'm happy to second. Any additional comments? Okay, we can go ahead and take a vote.
And Chair Lawson Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you all very much. We'll now go to board committee report backs.
I just have a couple, Chair.
Okay.
I'll try to be quick. Not necessarily committee type updates, but two important updates that I like to share. As you've heard me say a couple of times in the last couple of days, last week I went to Sacramento to participate in a County of San Diego lobby day on HR 1. I met with Deputy Cabinet Secretary Richard Figueroa and 8 members of our San Diego delegation. I reminded them that we have nearly 1 million residents on Medi-Cal and that HR 1 will have significant consequences for them. I asked that they help us with 3 things. First, we need a trained and sufficient workforce to timely and accurately enroll people in Medi-Cal and CalFresh twice a year, as will be required by HR 1. Second, we need investments in indigent care to ensure that low-income adults who lose health care coverage still have a safety net. And third, we need investments in behavioral health to address the loss of federal funds for those requiring behavioral health services. I know that organizations like CSAC and UCC are working on this too, but I do think that we as the County of San Diego cannot and should not sit back and just wait to see what happens. We need to advocate for ourselves too as the 2nd largest county in the state, and I hope that all of us that is what all of us do, that all of us do what we can to make sure we get the funding that we need to make sure our residents who rely on Medi-Cal can have food on the table and get their necessary health care. For the second thing, real quick, I also wanted to share some exciting news. Last week, the California Transportation Commission approved the sale of the property on Troy Street in Lemon Grove to the County of San Diego. This was the final step that was needed for us to purchase the land and start construction of the sleeping cabins. I want to thank county staff, especially Scott Chrisman and Deanna Beck, who went all the way up to Malibu to attend the CTC meeting in person, for all of their hard work during the last 2 years to help us get here. I also want to thank our community partners, Father Joe's Villages, the Regional Task Force on Homelessness, Jewish Family Services, and PATH for supporting this project at the CTC meeting. It takes all of us working as a team to move projects like this forward, especially given all the obstacles that were in our way. And speaking of working as a team, I sincerely want to thank my team, and especially Joshua Dunn, for all of their hard work. There were times when would have been easy to give up, but we didn't, and we pushed ahead. There's still a lot more work to be done to get the sleeping cabins up and running for our unhoused community members, but I wanted to take a moment and celebrate this news with all of you, and to thank my colleagues as well for your continued support of the Troy Street Sleeping Cabins project. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. How many individuals do we have for non-agenda public comment?
We have 4 left, Chair.
Okay, so we'll do non-agenda public comment, and then we will adjourn, do any adjournments in memory, and then we'll go to closed session.
Thank you, Chair Lawson-Remer. Like it noted, we do have 4 requests left for non-agenda public comment. 2 of those coming via person, 2 of those coming via phone. So for anyone that has requested to speak via phone, if you could please dial up into the conference line now with the instructions that were provided to you. We will go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward to the podium Cesar Javier and Catherine Rhodes. You'll each have 2 minutes to address the board.
As we go deeper in our experience, you know, we are hurt. We were, and we are, and we will be hurt, not until the APCD City of San Diego elected officials will exist in this region. They should step down, and there is a long line of willing public servants. Ma'am Aguirre, Ma'am Rimer, you are with the APCD, your classmates, Rivera then, now Dr. Campbell, who cannot eradicate or clean up the City Hall of urine. They should have been cited for pollution, but because they are members of the governing board, they are free. No massage of penalty. In our case, we have presented our case. They came to our home. I volunteered our property for them to set up the smelling equipment. They didn't do it up to now. And as we have said, go deeper, this is a environmental hazards that should be the priority program of the county, the city, or any agency for the sake of San Diegans. Our question is, when do we solve this environmental hazards, which is killing us? Your child, Ma'am Rimer, on your lap, is now contaminated. It's in here. Ma'am Aguirre, your body is contaminated. Ma'am Step, oh, very Step, sorry. You are now contaminated because of the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. Let's wake up.
Thank you, sir.
Let's help one another. Thank God.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I want to just mention, you know, yesterday you had your Consumer Fairness and Public Protection Unit that could actually look into his toxic waste problem that he's been coming everywhere for years. Please actually look into it. Please help him out. He's begging for help. Now you can actually help him because the DA will do nothing. Please look into it, please. So anyway, thank you, Supervisor Montgomery Stepp, for saying that Mount Etna is in your district. You know, when it first came here, probably about 7 years ago, as surplus property, and you guys were going to gift it to San Diego Housing Commission, I came here and said, please do not do that. Please do not do that. Please keep the land as yourself. Keep ownership of the land and just lease it out. And thank goodness that's what you guys did. You kept ownership. You own Mount Etna. You own those 403 units. It's not owned by the San Diego Housing Commission. They have to do what you want them to do. You know, you have so much power on this. And so they're going above your heads without telling you about what they're doing with your property, and they're messing with these people who have mental retardation. They're messing with these seniors. They're jacking up their rents 10%. People say that they don't have anything to do. They have so many problems. They have problems with all their parking spaces is being rented out, or I guess they rented out parking spaces to SDG&E in order to make money for EV spaces. They're making money off the backs of poor people. They're not supposed to be doing that. You put in $59 million into this project. San Diego Housing Commission put in a measly like $6 million, and the rest were the state tax credits. This is your project, not their project. You can actually help them so much, and Mandy Havlick and I came here to beg for help. And please give it to your CAO. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair Lawson-Remer, not seeing any of the phone callers connected. That concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this afternoon.
Okay, thank you all very much. Do we have any adjournments in memory? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to adjourn today's meeting in memory of daughter, sister, auntie, and friend Alex Samantha Libby, who passed away after a courageous battle with cancer. Alex was born on September 26, 1991, and from the very beginning, she radiated strength, love, kindness, and a light that naturally drew people to her. She was beautiful inside and out, always thoughtful and genuinely engaging. She also had a signature love for all shades of pink, whether it was hot pink, light pink, shimmer pink, and sparkle pink. The colors she loved reflected the vibrancy and joy she carried with her every day. Alex had a remarkable way of connecting with others, forming friendships wherever she went. From San Diego to Washington, D.C. to Hawaii, Alex loved people and people loved her in return. Whether at the beach, the park, a casual lunch, or family gathering, she had a way of making you feel that you'd known her all your life. Alex lived her life with intention and found joy in the simple but meaningful moments. She enjoyed sunsets, music, the ocean, and deep conversations with friends and even strangers. She cherished her role as auntie to her nieces, Ava and Claire, adored her cat, Riz, and found happiness in the music of artists like Chappelle Roan and Lola Young. Most of all, she treasured time spent with the people that she loved. Alex was a graduate of San Diego State University and a proud Aztec. She worked alongside her sister, Kimberly Miller, at Miller Public Affairs, where she not only contributed professionally, but also built lasting friendships with colleagues, clients, and community members. Alex's commitment to service was evident in the many organizations and communities she supported. She was active with the Ocean Discovery Institute, the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council, the San Diego Futures Foundation, and neighborhoods such as City Heights, Jamul, Linda Vista, and Mission Bay. She also gave her time to food and toy drives and held a special place in her heart for Lincoln High School and the Hive. Alex was a giver of light and love. Her family and friends were truly blessed to have her. She was a loving daughter, sister, auntie, niece, sister-in-law, cousin, and friend whose presence made every space brighter. Though cancer ultimately took her life, Alex faced it with faith and courage. She was not afraid, finding peace in her belief that she was going to heaven. Alex is survived by her loving family, her wide circle of friends, and all those whose lives she touched. We extend our deepest condolences to them. May her memory be a blessing to all that knew her. Thank you.
Thank you. We now proceed to closed session.
The board will now recess into closed session to consider those matters listed under item 30 on yesterday's agenda, as well as item 1 on yesterday's fire protection agenda. If there are any reportable actions, they will be reported out at the end of today's session. The next regular meeting of the board will take place on April 21st at 10 a.m.